Et salut mes petits ours, salut à tous, j'espère que vous allez bien. Et bien aujourd'hui, comme de coutume, on va se retrouver pour une petite vidéo découverte d'un jeu tout mignon, tout sympa que j'ai acheté il y a quelques temps. Ça s'appelle Horace, c'est développé par Paul Hellman et 505 Games. C'est sorti le 21 octobre dernier. Bon, le jeu je l'ai vraiment pas eu pour cher puisque je l'ai payé, je crois que je l'ai payé 99 centimes. Donc autant dire que c'était donné. Je crois qu'habituellement il en vaut, je crois qu'il vaut 5 euros, quelque chose comme ça. Enfin la promo était vraiment très intéressante, c'était offert. Et j'avoue que quand j'ai vu le trailer, ça m'a intrigué. Ça avait l'air d'être une sorte de jeu de plateforme 2D, un peu arcade et en même temps un peu très centré sur le scénario avec dans lequel on incarne un petit robot avec pas mal de phases de jeu différentes. Alors on va pas faire un let's play hein, évidemment, mais j'avais envie de vous le faire découvrir, donc on va certainement faire les premières minutes du jeu, donc le début, et puis comme ça on va voir ensemble un petit peu de quoi il en retourne. Alors, c'est parti. Ok, donc voilà notre petit Horace, notre petit robot. Ok, allez, ça commence. Donc là, on peut regarder en haut, on peut regarder en bas, on peut se déplacer. Donc, relativement classique pour l'instant. Ah oui, donc c'est vraiment la jeunesse de notre petit robot, quoi.
And so, I was born. The first people I remember seeing were the old man, the old lady, and their daughter, Heather. After they'd said hello, the old man powered me down so he could install some software. I could tell they were nice people. The old man didn't give me a silly voice or stupid personality. And the old lady didn't dress me like a clown. Although for some reason, Heather really didn't like me. Once I'd had time to get used to walking, the old man asked me to dash from one end of the room to the other.
Ok. Cours. On saute.
Next, the old man spent a couple of hours building some wooden platforms. He said he wanted me to jump up them, but I must admit, I was scared. It wasn't until I saw Heather and her mother happily climbing up them that I decided it might be okay.
Ok, bon. Comme je vous disais, plateforme 2D. Bon, pour le moment, on est dans le classicisme.
The old man then rearranged the platforms. He told me to try to reach the other end of the room without touching the floor. Heather said, the floor's made of lava. But when I smiled at her, she just frowned and looked away. The old lady arranged some pillows and blankets. She said it was in case I fell, but I think she just wanted it to look more like lava.
D'accord, c'est sympa comme initiation. Évidemment, on
When I
combine le
reached the
saut
other
et le
side,
sprint,
the
forcément on
old
saute
man
beaucoup plus
just
haut.
smiled and said,
Donc,
that'll do
rien de
for
surprenant.
now.
Chapitre 1, apprendre à marcher. Ah, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Ah, j'avais dû mettre sur pause sans faire exprès.
A couple of days after those first lessons, the family had a big meal, and I was introduced to everyone else. The professor was the old man's brother. He was very quiet, and always seemed to just kind of stare at me. He had lived with the old man for 5 years. The house was so huge they barely saw each other. He preferred instead to stay in his room, leaving everything up to his butler, Mr. Deck, as he insisted everyone call him, although the professor always called him Anton. For a while, he called me the yellow bastard, but the old man made him stop, as he thought it sounded racist. Mr. Silton was the old man's driver. Before he worked here, he'd gotten in with some bad people and was the driver in a post office robbery, although it all went wrong for some reason. Mr. Silton showed me a video of his band. I'm sure some people must like it, but I just found it terrifying. Then there was Alice. She was the cook. She was a nice old lady. When she was younger, she had been a TV chef. Then, years later, she had a small part in Coronation Street. Mr. Silton said, before she worked for the old man, Alice was quite a hoarder. She kept old newspapers and bicycles. And something about a poo in a shoebox. The next morning, the old man gathered everyone together to show them what I was capable of. What else does he do? Asked Mr. Silton. The old man smiled. He can help around the house. Could he help me with my newspaper collecting? Asked Alice. I'm not sure that's a good idea, said the old lady, but he can do all sorts of jobs. Yeah, said Mr. Silton, shove a stick up his ass and he can do Deck's job. Now, said the old man, we have company, pointing to some important-looking people. 2 large men, both called Gary, set up what the old man referred to as lasers. He said again, I should try to get from one end of the room to the other, but I shouldn't be worried, as I had a special chip which meant no matter how damaged I was, I couldn't die. He said it was like infinite lives in a video game. But when he realized I didn't understand, he said he would explain another time.
D'accord, c'est original la façon dont c'est scénarisé. Je sais pas, c'est rigolo. Ah bon, alors moi j'ai foncé comme un dératé là. D'accord, donc là. Ok. Bon, désolé, je fais un peu n'importe quoi là. Y a rien de compliqué. Oh là là. Non mais, bon j'arrête, désolé. J'arrête de faire n'importe quoi.
Everybody
Voilà.
clapped, except the important-looking men.
Il voulait que
Not
je meure,
exactly
quoi.
a cold, calculated killer, is it? Said the man in black. The man in grey laughed. What kind of artificial intelligence was that? He asked. Move right, unless there's something in the way. Okay, okay, said the old man. He turned to me and whispered, they're going to make it quite a bit tougher. But I'm sure you'll be fine.
Ok. Pour se baisser. Oula, n'importe quoi. Ouais, on se baisse. Ah là 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 là, mais c'est pas vrai. Désolé pour ce que vous voyez là. Ah mais décidément. Manette en main, c'est pas si évident que ça. Hein. Aïe 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 aïe. Il est passé près celui-là. D'accord, faut étudier un peu le pattern du truc. Voilà.
The Garys then rearranged the room one last time. The old man smiled. Now, there's no need to look so glum, he said. I'm still happy with everything you've done today. So this time, I was determined to do him proud.
Et hop, on y va. Bon bah celui-là je l'ai fait en one shot, parfait.
Actually seemed quite happy when I made it through. We might have a winner after all, said the man in black. It's no Killbot 3000, but you can almost see the fire in its eyes. A couple of days later, the old lady said she had a surprise for me. My own room. She also wanted to play me some music. I wasn't sure after what Mr. Silton had shown me. As if music wasn't amazing enough, the old lady then bought me a television set. I couldn't believe what I saw. I watched everything I could. Comedy, drama, horror, sci-fi. Anything anyone wanted to watch I would happily watch with them. Then one day, the old man set up a small box. He plugged some cables into the television and said, "This is what I meant when I said video games." I played games at every chance I could. I took on everyone. I was unstoppable. I had enjoyed music, film, and television. But to me, video games really were the highest art form.
Voilà, je vois Pong. D'accord, donc je crois que ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va jouer apparemment les jeux auxquels joue Horace. Ah, d'accord. Oula, ça c'est raté. Ah mais attends, j'étais pas prêt. Mais c'est bien, ça permet de diversifier le gameplay, c'est chouette. Oh là là, bon, par contre j'ai vraiment pas été bon. Je sais pas si on peut recommencer, ouais super. Ah ouais non, c'est une version de Pong là, mais avec des raquettes de tennis. Allez, un point. Ah merde, ça c'est con ça. Ah ouais, c'est très arcade hein, comme, comme type de jeu en réalité. C'est pas juste de la plateforme 3D, 2D pardon. C'est vraiment presque un jeu d'arcade en même temps. Allez, 2-2. Et 2-3.
Heather's birthday was a couple of months later. Her mum and dad had bought her a camera and arranged a day out by the sea so that Heather could take some photos, although I really don't think she wanted any pictures of me. When the old man asked the professor if he wanted to go, he frowned and said, "I can't believe you want to spend time with that thing. It could destroy the world." I wasn't sure what he meant, but the old man just smiled and said, "That's what you said about the Game Boy. Anton, how about you?" "I don't think so," said Mr. Deck. "The last time I got in that car, Barry crashed us into a branch of Woolworths. I never would have gone into Woolworths of my own accord." The old man explained that the car was old and the brakes had failed, but Mr. Deck was having none of it. So Mr. Silton drove, and Alice came along for the fresh air. I enjoyed
C'est
being
extrêmement
outside,
narratif comme jeu.
although the old lady kept telling me to be careful of the rickety old walkways. It felt like she was telling me off, but I think she was just concerned. As the old man and I stood on the cliff tops, I could see something in the distance. I wasn't sure what it was, so I asked the old man. He said it was a battleship that had sunk in the 1940s. But he looked so sad when he spoke about war. I didn't see what happened, but the metal platform Heather was climbing on had collapsed. She was safe, even if the rocks she was on looked very dangerous. The tide was rising, and we didn't know how long the Coast Guard was going to be, so I offered to climb down and get her. The old man agreed, but said I should be careful, as Heather doesn't have infinite lives, like I do.
Ah, petite mission de sauvetage.
Heather was unconscious, and her leg was broken, so I picked her up as gently as I could. I decided it would be best if I didn't run the rest of the way.
Alors là par contre je peux pas sprinter, je peux juste sauter, mais pas sprinter. On s'en sort bien pour l'instant. C'est original la façon dont c'est raconté, c'est bien quoi. C'est vraiment une narration et de temps en temps des phases de gameplay au service de la narration. C'est bien, c'est intéressant.
And then took her off to hospital. A few days later, we all went to see how she was doing. She was fine, but would have to wear the cast for a couple of months.
est devenus les meilleurs amis du monde apparemment avec Hitler. Là.
Once Heather got to know me, we became good friends. We enjoyed the same films and TV. She was also annoyingly good at some of my favorite games. After a while, she became very interested in how I worked. Soon she knew as much about me as the old man did, if not more. We spent the next couple of months visiting other countries, as when it came to teaching me things, the old man always liked to pick interesting locations.
C'est joli là comme...
He had explained the basics
pas où
of
ils étaient, mais c'était beau.
mathematics to me at the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Taught me history in the dead of night, surrounded by mysterious giant stones. And even showed me science in action high up in a hot air balloon. This is why I was surprised when the old man took me to a restaurant. It was nice, but it seemed very somber compared to the previous grand locations. He said he just wanted to chat, and this was nice and quiet. Plus it was his favorite place to eat. We talked about life, the universe, Douglas Adams, everything really. When I asked him why were we here, why did we exist, he just smiled and said, life is like a game, just don't expect to be finished anytime soon. When I looked puzzled, he said, well, everyone should have a purpose. So I asked him, what's my purpose? He thought for a bit, then said, so you want to be a real boy? Which just confused me even more. Eventually the old man said, for now, I want you to help clean things around the house. I must have looked unimpressed, as he then said, okay, I want you to clean 1,000,000 things. It didn't sound like the meaning of life, but I suppose you've got to start somewhere.
Chapitre 2, découvrir ma vocation. Ok.
The next day, the old man said he wanted to install some more software, so he powered me down. When I came to, he said Mr. Silton had a joke for me, and that I should pull his finger. I don't think I got the joke, so the old man powered me down again. This time when I pulled Mr. Silton's finger, I got the joke, but it wasn't very funny. The old man then explained that he had installed a special chip which allowed me to clean away anything that was broken. He said it also tells me how many things are nearby, and how many smaller things are in a bigger thing. It all sounded very complicated, but he said all I really had to do was pause, and it would bring up all the information I needed. He then said he wanted me to find and clean all of the items in the room. He told me there would be some chains to climb, but that would be nice and easy, as I just had to press up. He then finished by saying, when I had collected all the items, I should come back here.
Ok, bon écoutez les amis, je pense qu'on va quand même s'arrêter là parce que sinon ça va faire un peu trop long. Et puis comme le jeu est extrêmement narratif, on peut pas toujours... je peux pas non plus couper la vidéo en plein milieu d'une cinématique. Donc bah écoutez, on va s'arrêter là. En tout cas moi j'espère que ça vous a plu. Personnellement je le trouve vraiment sympathique. Il y a quelque chose de très intriguant avec ce jeu. J'aime bien la façon dont c'est raconté, c'est très original. C'est vraiment en fait de la plateforme et de l'arcade au service d'une narration. Une narration qui est, ma foi, bien ficelée et plutôt intéressante. Hein. Je pense que moi personnellement je vais continuer et ça va être, je pense que ça va être un bon jeu. En tout cas je l'espère, sur la durée j'espère sincèrement que ça sera un bon jeu. Bon bien écoutez mes amis, écoutez, portez-vous bien, on se retrouvera une prochaine fois pour une nouvelle vidéo découverte, pour un autre titre, et en attendant portez-vous bien, et des bises, ciao ciao.